What's up, guys? It's Joe from Backwoods. I was coming to you today here. I'm checking emails, so if y'all see me glancing over, it's what I'm doing some reading. But hold on one second. What I was wanting to do is talk a little bit. Um, should you or should you not believe in rumors? I've had people ask me this a lot, and absolutely you should. You ever hear of a rumor of a big buck in your area or any area that you're allowed to be? Go and check it out, guys. I mean, you may or may not kill the buck of a lifetime. I had a particular hunt about 5 years ago where I had took a young hunter hunting, and he asked me where he should set. I just this spot that I sent him to, I had harvested deer there before. I told him, I said, just go down there and go to the left and do this and do that. Find the big tree and sit down. Well, we were supposed to meet back up about dinner time, about lunch. That's usually about what time I like to go back to the truck if I hunt in morning time. And we had a certain meeting spot. A lot of times I don't carry a phone in the woods, so I mean I don't like to text or none of that stuff. I don't even care for calling anybody or nothing like that while I'm in the woods. So we met back up. It was about 11:30, and he had told me that he had jumped up a big buck. The area I sent him to wasn't really known for big bucks. It was just known for young deer. I mean, I had killed some sevens and eights and six pointers and stuff like that in there over the years, and I mean it was a great spot to shoot some deer, but never had produced for a big buck. So let me get a drink here. He was telling me this thing had a rack. It was that wide, and he ran down the mountain. He did this and he did that. I was like, golly, I just didn't really believe him. So we went back to work. He worked with me, and I'm not gonna say his name because a lot of people around here know him. So I don't want to do him like that. But anyway, it was like he couldn't wait for the weekend to come because we was gonna get to hunt again. And he said, I'm going right back down there. He said, I'm going to get that deer. I was like, okay. I was like, you go on back down there. You know where you saw him at. Just, set up, get the wind in your face, and maybe you'll get him. He said, okay, I will. I will. I went to another area. About 9 o'clock, I went back to the meeting spot. We was having a short hunt that morning, and I was waiting on him. Here he come. He was shook. He was shaking bad. I jumped him up again. He said, Joey, I jumped him up. He's a big one. He's got a rack this wide. He does this, he does that, and he runs. I was like, my goodness. So I started thinking, I was like, maybe he's really seeing something, I'm gonna order to check it out. So the very next weekend, he couldn't go, and it was Friday night. I made a decision. I was like, I'm going to go off in there. I'm going to hunt just to see, what he's been seeing. So I go off in there, and I didn't see nothing. I didn't see the first deer, and I was sitting out on a point where I had told him to go, but I don't think he really was even going there. I think he was just adventuring around after the sun came up when he could actually see. I believe he was walking, doing a lot of walking is what he was doing. So I started walking out, and I was like, I'm going to check this particular hillside over here, see if I can see any rubs. Well, as I walked down, there was a big old blowdown, like a big giant oak tree had fell from a storm, and it cut the stump just perfect. I was like, I'm going to jump up on that stump, and I'm gonna glass. I have my binoculars. I'm gonna glass down this. There's a big oak flat. I'm gonna glass down this oak flat. And I'm gonna see if I can see any big rubs. That would give me an idea of if there was a buck in the area because oaks would be the feeding area. And this particular area had been clear cut, so they was bedding all around it. I'm looking, glassing down through there, and I squat down on one knee, and all of a sudden, there's a big buck just boom. He just jumped straight up out of that treetop. Well, he takes off down the mountain. It's like, my God, that's got to be the deer he's been seeing. It was a pretty decent buck. I mean, it wasn't a Boone Crockett or anything, but it was a nice deer. And I was like, man, I'm gonna try to get that deer. So I came back to my house and I was sitting around thinking. The following day was Sunday, and he said he was gonna meet me, and it was on New Year's Day. Matter of fact, that it was New Year's Eve when I was hunting, and it was New Year's Day was the next day. So he said, "Yeah, I'll meet you." And I'm thinking this young kid, he gonna be out partying with his girlfriend or whatever. He ain't gonna show up. He'll be late. Sure enough, it started getting close to daylight, and I hadn't seen the young man pull up yet. So I just got in the truck, crunked it up, headed to the certain property that I'm talking about. Well, the night before, I had sat around and I'd done some thinking, and I looked on the topo maps and where I jumped that deer, and what that I was trying to figure out what that deer was doing, and why he was bedding there. And one, he had there was this cover that ran down the right side. If you're looking down the mountain down the right, it was real thick. I'm talking about dogwood, poplar, pine. It was, I mean, really thick, sawbriar. He was jay hooking around and bedding with his back against that. And he was in the thermal wind tunnel. And the thermal wind tunnel is when the wind blows over the hill, and then you got the thermals rising up, and it begins to rotate and swirls. But it swirls like this, like if you had a tornado doing this and you turn it sideways. And I'm thinking, you know what? If I get in that thermal wind tunnel right there on the side of this hill, when he comes into bed, I'll be able to get him. So I said, I got to get there real early. So I kept waiting on him, waiting on him. He didn't show up. So it was getting late. Like it was maybe an hour before daylight. I was like, I gotta go. I ain't got time. I'm not gonna sit around and wait on somebody. And he ended up showing up. The young man did, but he was after daylight. I mean, I was already in the woods. I was gone. You don't say, hey, I'm gonna meet you, and then when it comes to hunting, if you running 15, 20 minutes late, I'm leaving you. You got to be here on time or you're not going to get to go. So I'm over there. I go down in there again. I set up where that stump is, but I'm thinking I got close to where that stump was, and I looked up the hill, and there was this gigantic chestnut oak with limbs that came all the way down to the ground. I'm like, I bet I can get up against that oak right there, sit in front of it or behind it, either one. If that deer comes in here to bed in that treetop, I'll get a shot at him. So what I did, I went up there and I got by that big chestnut oak tree. Sure enough, I felt the wind going over my head, but I could also feel the thermal rise. I was sitting there watching the sun. It was starting to get gray light. And I looked down the mountain and I seen something coming up the point on into the oak flat. And it was zigzagging, doing this. Just like that right there. I looked at my binos, couldn't hardly tell what it was. I'm like, it's got to be a deer right at gray light. Well, I mean, he was taking his time too. And I was like, man, he's going to be here, after the sun comes up the way this thing's moving. Finally, I heard a few shots in the valley, duck hunters. Pow, 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 pow. As soon as they started firing off their shots, this deer, he started to move a little bit faster, which they're probably a mile away. But I guess that let him know, hey, it's time to get to bed. It's, getting up in the morning. As he starts to get a little bit closer, he's within 100 yards. And he goes in behind all these oaks, and he's still zigzagging. Well, he stops, he throws his head up. I'm like, oh no, man, he's gonna bust me right there. He licks his nose a few times, and he's looking around, and I was like, he's gonna get me. I can feel it. I could just feel this deer is about to bust me any minute. And all of a sudden, he puts his head back down, and I seen a patch of oaks ahead of him. And I said, when he goes behind them oaks, I'm gonna throw up my gun. I had my muzzle loader that morning. Sure enough, he went in behind them oaks. I threw up the rifle. So when he comes out, I'm gonna get him. He come walking out. I seen his tines sticking out behind the tree, and boom! When I did, it was just anybody that shot a muzzleloader knows it was just smoke, just bold, and it went every which way. And I smoked out. It took a second or two for it to clear up. When I looked down there where I shot at the deer, he wasn't standing there. I was like, oh no, I've missed him, or I've shot him. He's ran off, or something like that. So I'll wait a few minutes just to see if I can see him running around down through there. I'm glassing, and I don't see him. So I'm going to ease down the mountain. As I'm easing down there, I start noticing rubs along this. It's a real thick transition that, like I was saying earlier, it runs down the mountain, and he wasn't bedding in it. He was bedding up against it in that treetop. So I passed the treetop. As soon as I passed that treetop, it was just rub city. I mean, every pine through there had a rub on it, big around my forearm. It's good rubs all the way down through there. I didn't see him standing anywhere or laying anywhere. What I didn't know, there was another hump right there. So I mean, I'm searching this whole flat. I'm freaking out. I'm like, I've missed this thing. I was mad at myself. And I ease on down the mountain just a little bit more, and there was that hump. He was on that hump when I shot, and there he laid. He had fell off and rolled down that hump. And I haven't never shot a 10 pointer to this in my whole life, and I was like, Lord, please be a 10 pointer. I mean, I've killed 4 pointers, spikes, 6 pointers, 8 pointers, 9 pointers, 11 pointers. I never killed a 10 pointer. So I'm going down through there. Please be a 10 pointer. I get down there, and man, he was a good sized deer. I get down there and I grab him by the rack, and big 8 pointer. He scored 120 inches. So I was, real excited, real happy about it. And the young man that was late showing up ended up having to help me drag his buck out of the woods. He wasn't happy about it, but it was a learning experience for him for sure. I mean, you got to be on time, and I feel bad now that I've over the years we're still real good friends. He tells everybody about the time I shot his deer. But yeah, you should believe every rumor you hear. If somebody's telling you they're seeing a big buck, go check it out. I mean, even if they're non-hunters, if they're just driving down the road and they're saying, "Hey, I'm seeing a big buck at this particular location, or out in this field, or I'm seeing a big buck cross the road," or if you can hunt that area, you should definitely go and look. So, but I ended up finding probably 300 rubs that buck had made, and this is in the January, so he had been rubbing there since bow season. So I mean, and he was bedding constantly because the young man jumped him out of that bed twice, and then I jumped him out of that bed once. So that was 3 times he messed up. He messed up when he let me see him bed there. So what he messed up, young man, I don't know if he'd ever taken the deer or not because I really think he was setting up. Then once the sun got up, he was probably walking around and kicking him up. But I mean, I guess it's really my fault for taking the deer. But anyway, I thought I'd share something like that with you guys. A lot of people's been asking me, what is Backwoods Mafia Inc.? Anyway, Backwoods Mafia is a social media group. It's a group that we sit and we talk about deer hunting, anything outdoors. It don't matter it don't have to be deer hunting, just anything outdoors. It can be fishing, barbecuing, I mean, it don't matter. Just whatever's outside. If you're outside, hey man, you're part of the backwoods. So that's what that is about. And I also have the YouTube channel, the Backwoods Inc. And ain't nothing. It's not a corporation or anything like that. It's not a company. Everything we do is nonprofit. I mean, I ain't saying I don't have sponsors. I have several sponsors. I ain't gonna call them all out tonight. It's late. I just wanted to tell the story, but definitely check out the thermal wind tunnel. Check out butt bedding. Check out transitions. Check out any rumor you hear about a buck, especially a buck. If somebody's just seeing deer, I mean, ask them, has it got horns? You know, but pay attention to those rumors. That's one of the best tips I could ever give anybody. And I've shot several deer off rumors. I mean, not just that deer. I had people tell me I'm seeing a buck, seeing a buck, seeing a buck. And I go off in there and find him and get him. So pay attention to that. But I will be filming my velvet hunt in Tennessee. I will be leaving in August the 22nd, I think, is the day I'm pulling out. But I'll try to get all that on film for everybody and stuff like that. And I've got a few guys that's going to film for me, and I'm going to be filming hunts for them also. So we're going to do some trading. So stay tuned, man. We got some good stuff coming. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the story.